Hello, my name is Dee Ferrier. I'd like to welcome you to my oral presentation. In this oral presentation, I aim to discuss my past work and my studies, some of my present work, and how this, along with the artists who have influenced me, will inform my future work. In relation to art, the term diaspora is used to discuss artists who have migrated from one part of the world to another, or those whose families have, and who express their diverse experiences of culture and identity in the work they make, often expressing alternative narratives and challenging the ideas and structures of the established art world. I grew up in an expat family of 7. We moved around the world on average every 3 years. This nomadic lifestyle continues today with my own family of 6. As a result, I have a keen interest in diaspora and migration, as it has been one of the only constants in my life. On the rare occasion that we had a tour in Scotland, I would go and visit my gran, who lived in the Ayrshire countryside. I loved it there, and I got especially engaged when I could open the secret door in her roll-top desk. I was so small that I had to climb on a chair to reach it. It was in here that she kept her prized photographs. She would let me hold them while telling me who the people in the images were. I studied for an HNC in fine art in Aberdeen whilst working as cabin crew for British Airways. We were also renovating a home at the time. My first daughter was born prematurely with many complications. This was a month before the course ended. I managed to finish it in between visits to the neonatal intensive care unit. About a year later, we moved to Houston, Texas for an 18-month trip that turned into 7 years. Our travels took us to Western Australia, where I completed my bachelor's in fine art, which was to include some photographic modules. This quote resonates with me, as I would never have photographed Edinburgh had I not left Scotland. You need to leave to allow your eyes to see what was always there, much of which became passé in appearance due to your exposure to it. After a trip to the Grand Canyon with a series of bad photographs, I felt I had better understood Hockney's frustration at photographing the canyon. No matter what time of day, it's immense, overwhelming, and awesome in the true sense of the word. The light is hazy, unforgiving, or blinding. Painting a triptych after David Hockney's Grand Canyon led me to look closer at Hockney, and when I saw a series of his joiners, I was very excited. Multiple images that he took of one item or area and then pieced together. This mode of Hockney's working brought me to experiment with interdisciplinary practice. It informed my final works on paper for my graduation show at Curtin. Alongside this work, for a portrait module, I took to photographing my daughters, who are all company ballet dancers. My influences being Richard Avedon and Irving Penn, latterly adding Erwin Olaf and Reneke Dijkstra. My idea was to reference the ballet performances that they had been in, with these artists in mind. My major in fine art was a pivotal moment for me. I had always taken photographs of what was around me at the time, but Curtin forced me out of my comfort zone and made me look at alternate subject matter. This included undertaking a series on architectural photography, as Perth had a huge building boom going on at the time, with a large, growing immigrant population. This really kick-started my interest in diaspora and gentrification. As part of my work, I started to document the areas of bushland near my home as it was being systematically destroyed to make way for new homes. My Western Australian architecture work influences the work I'm most interested in now, a documentary of how the land is rapidly changing and how we are essentially powerless against this change. We are left to simply document. Edward Burtynsky's images bring evocative memories of constantly flying around the globe. those patchwork squares of land in glorious muted tones depicting the salt pans in India. A reminder that the receding groundwater levels in these salt flats caused by centuries of salt extraction will make this natural phenomenon cease to exist. Gursky's images of consumerism in Amazon are monumental in size and commentary. It is eminently possible to have these images untitled. The photographs speak for themselves. For my future work, I want to document the rapid expansion of Katy, which is an urban area just on the outskirts of Houston. Houston has a population of almost 7 million people and is continually expanding further and further from the city centre to a point where all the suburbs just join together. My children can remember when this place was just green fields. In Houston, the weather is 6 months of brutal heat, followed by 6 months of just really hot. The sun is almost always out, which makes it a difficult place to shoot. So I do have to be mindful of the best time of day to photograph. This area is undergoing great change, with multiple new homes being built, along with the infrastructure to support it, new shops, gas stations, and convenience stores, plus new roads. This new construction has a certain aesthetic typical for the area. The images of film vendors, William Eggleston and Stephen Shore, have all recorded or documented this aesthetic. Their works have influenced my ideas for my future pieces. All around this area of Katy, there are reminders of its history in the rice and grain silos along the way. These buildings are reminiscent of Bert and Hilla Becher's work on the preparation plants in Germany. This building behind me is a new structure being built at the edge of the city. It is one of several new buildings being built here due to the cost of the land. Land here is cheap. Amazon recently opened a new distribution centre in this area. It is this similar type of construction, but significantly larger. I want to say that migrants almost exclusively build these structures, and I think many of them could be illegal. I want to explore urban and rural gentrification for my final project. And I want to use interdisciplinary approaches in my work to describe what is going on in the urban and rural areas around Houston. The legal and illegal migrant population almost exclusively build all new construction in Houston. They are the backbone of the workforce here. I do not wish to expose anyone to deportation, so it is important for me to photograph these places when they are empty. It is interesting that these migrants are being vilified by the people whose lifestyle would disappear if these hard-working South Americans were not in this area. This land was originally occupied by native tribes. The Tonkawa, which means live with wolves, was one of them. The Tonkawa were a nomadic tribe. Our family are just a modern version of this nomadic lifestyle. We move also in order to find food and a home. Hopefully, going forward, I can create a body of work focusing on the overlooked and the endless craving for modernity and the American dream. These images are so relevant today as a record of the area's history. I hope that by documenting this area in Houston, I'll be able to show that this new construction can be deemed beautiful in its raw form, that these enormous slab-sided buildings are actually a work of art, that the changes in the area can be seen as a positive development, and that there may be a light shone upon the history of the area.